Hey, I'm Chef Todd Moore, and over the years I've had to hire dozens of chefs and cooks. During their interview process, I generally don't have them cook their signature dish. I mean, just like the handful of dishes that you can cook at home without a recipe, a chef has practiced their signature dish many times, and that doesn't help me determine their overall cooking abilities. Instead, I want to see some basic cooking skills. So what I'm going to show you today is my chef test. It highlights the skills that everyone should possess if they want to learn to cook anything at any time and be confident that it'll always come out great. I'm going to share with you the 7 basic skills that I think everyone should have to cook food consistently in the kitchen and be proud of the results. If you already have all 7 of these skills and cooking techniques, great, you can work for me. On the other hand, if you only have 1 or 2 of these skills, that's still fantastic. Why? Because I know you'll want to add other skills and learn to cook basic methods. Know the methods behind all written recipes, then you'll be making your cooking a winner every single time. So here are my 7 chef tests to reveal their knowledge of basic cooking methods. The first, use a chef knife correctly and cut vegetables into 3 specific sizes. Number 2, anticipate when oil is about to reach the smoke point. Number 3, develop color during sauté. Number 4, thicken a liquid to make a sauce. Number 5, softly poach an egg. Number 6, roast a delicate item like fish. And number 7, tell when a grilled steak is done. My 7 chef tests. And in the past I've blogged about fear of cooking, about doubts in cooking, about guessing in cooking, and now about inconsistency in cooking. I'm sharing all this with you because they all stem from the basic root. The fears, the doubts, the guessing, this all comes from a lack of knowledge about the underlying cooking methods. And in order to cook food like a chef, you need an understanding of the techniques that chefs use to cook food. I mean, think about watching a magician, right? A magician's always amazing when you watch the magician's hands the way that he wants you to. However, once you've been shown the misdirection, how the trick works, you start looking for this redirection. You now know his method, you can anticipate what he'll do, and he'll repeat it again and again, but still, the mystery is gone for you. Well, the mysterious magic and wonder in cooking is destroyed by repetitive cooking methods. These are the certain basic skills that you can duplicate again and again, and just like a magician can make a playing card, a coin, a dollar bill, a credit card disappear with the sleight of hand, you can also cook chicken, fish, steak, vegetables, pork in the same repetitive method, and the magic will then appear for you. So here are the answers to my chef test. Number 1, using a chef's knife correctly. Well, the first indicator of an experienced cook from a novice is the way that they handle the most used tool in the kitchen. It's the chef's knife. And in culinary college, my students have to cut carrots into 3 sizes. They are brunoise, bâtonnet, and small dice. Brunoise is the French word for an 1/8 inch cube. It's a tiny little cut that you'd find in chicken salad or soup. Bâtonnet is a 2-inch stick that's a 1/4 inch on all sides. Small dice is a 1/4 inch cube. Small dice comes from bâtonnet, as the cubes are always cut from sticks. So to pass this test, well, the result should be 3 items that are precisely twice or half the size of the others. Consistency of cut is consistency of cook, so knife skills are very important for excellent results. You have failed this test if you give me items of a wide variety of shapes and sizes, or all the items cut into the same size. And if I see a chef using 2 hands on their chef's knife, the mezzaluna thing back and forth, I just know they're mashing up onions and creating inconsistent cuts. I want to see correct proportion of cuts. When you learn how to use the chef's knife, and trust me, when you know how to do it skillfully and safely, you'll love doing it. You'll be looking for things to cut up. I call this the gateway drug. Then you have to look for things to cut up. When you like to cut things up, you'll be using fresh vegetables. Second in my chef test, to anticipate when oil is about to smoke. Now the skill here is understanding the convective cooking process, because when liquid in a pan starts to move as it heats, it moves up as it heats. It hits the top of the pan, cools, and falls, even if it's a micromillimeter thin. And you can actually see this kind of movement in hot oil. Well, soon after the convection begins, the oil will begin to smoke. You know you've got this skill down when I can give someone 3 different oils, types of oils, put them in front of them, put them in a pan, and they can tell me where the variable smoke points are. So you pass this test when the chef notices the oil starting to change from being perfectly smooth to beginning a convection process, then adds the protein product to the pan just before there's visible smoke. This is where you get the splattering reaction in the pan rather than so what? If a chef ever puts a chicken breast in a pan for saute and the chicken breast says so what, this is not a chef that handles the heat real well. You fail this test if you put a chicken breast in the pan and it says so what, or the oil starts to smoke and you got to start all over again. Can't cook with smoking oil. Number 3 in my chef test is develop color during saute. Now, nicely browned foods are attractive foods. This is what attracts the eye. And to develop golden color in the saute pan, you have to get the sugars in your product to caramelize at 320 degrees Fahrenheit. The key is getting the pan hot enough to start. And you can observe this by quantifying the temperature of the pan. You sprinkle a few drops of water from your hand, you witness the reaction. So if you want to pass this test, you give me a chicken breast with a beautiful brown plate appeal that shows your ability to control heat so that the item develops color but doesn't lose moisture or burn. You fail this test if you give me a chicken breast that is pale, one that's shrunken, one that's stiffened, one that's lost moisture, one that's burned, one that shows the lack of involvement in the preliminary steps of the saute process. Chef test number 4, here's the answer: thicken a liquid to make a sauce. Well, there's a lot of different thickening agents that can be used to thicken a sauce. For me, I would want to have a chef show me that they can make a blonde roux, a brown roux, and a brick roux. Flour and cornstarch are fantastic thickening agents, but you need to have an understanding of how much to use, and this can only happen with controlling the process of gelatinization of starches. Chef that can show me that, they pass. They take a cup of milk, they turn it into a thickened sauce that's shiny, that's velvety, that has no lumps. The sauce should be pourable, not ploppable. You failed this test if you give me a cup of milk that looks like mashed potatoes or cottage cheese. Without an understanding of how starches thicken, it's difficult to make consistently great sauces. This is a skill of someone that really knows how to cook. Number 5 chef test, softly poach an egg. Well, this shows the moist convective process, and it means that the chef should have an understanding of the difference between boil, simmer, and poach. A common mistake of home cooks, and chefs alike for that matter, is always boiling items. Boiling is not a cooking method. Once you understand how to control the reaction of liquid in a pan, you'll be able to perform a poach of a very delicate item like eggs without making all busted up egg drop soup. So you pass this test when you give me a nicely poached egg, one that looks like it should be in a magazine. Beautiful yolk, bright yellow, sitting up high on the albumin, should be fully intact and look great. You fail this test if you give me an egg that's been busted up into pieces because you've been simmering or boiling the liquid. If the egg is dull, if the color is dull, if the yolk can't be found or identified, it's not going to be put in a magazine. Controlling heat in a moist convective process is an important chef skill. Number 6 was to roast something delicate like fish. Most people can roast a chicken. Most people can put a piece of meat in for a while, and I don't have 3 hours to wait on the chef test anyway. But roasting something delicate like fish, now this shows the ability to control dry convective heat, dry versus moist. In controlling dry heat, there's a very fine line between the coagulation of proteins, the stiffening and shrinking of what you're cooking at 165 degrees Fahrenheit, and the 212 degrees Fahrenheit when moisture starts evaporating. The key to cooking with dry heat is being able to live in this temperature zone between 165 and 212, where the food cooks before drying out. So you pass the chef test if you give me a nice piece of flounder or tilapia, even cod or whitefish, catfish, anything that's fully cooked and it retains its moisture without drying out. With delicate items, the convective heat will dry items before sugars caramelize, so I won't expect this fish to be brown. If it goes to 320 brown, it's probably going to be dry. So I'm expecting a nicely cooked fish that isn't necessarily brown. You fail this test, you give me a piece of fish that's brown and it's dry. It's much smaller in its cooked state than it was in its raw state because of the drying effect of the oven. This chef doesn't know how to retain moisture in a dry cooking process. Chef test number 7, how to tell when a grilled steak is done. I mean, the best test that I can think of for this is to hand a chef 3 steaks, ask them to cook them to order. Cook me 1 rare, 1 medium, 1 well done. A lot of people can't do this. How you do this, how you be able to cook for multiple people, I mean, this is the skill of a chef. You can't just guess at the steaks, right? You use a thermometer. Cooking with a recipe and without a thermometer is like driving down the road with a map while you're blindfolded. You got all the directions, but you never know when you've gotten to your destination, and you can't even come close. So you pass this test if you give me finished steaks that have attractive grill marks, they're equally browned, they're cooked to the different internal temperatures. This is a cook that uses a thermometer, and this is a cook that passes this test. Not one that is obviously more cooked than the other to be well done. They all look similar on the outside, and they're different internal temperatures on the inside. If you can master this, you are a master griller. Most people just burn stuff. You fail this test if you give me 3 steaks all cooked to the same temperature, or if you can't tell which steak is rare, medium, well done, if you're taking them off the grill guessing at them. The chef that can't control direct source conductive heat would create waste in my restaurant. Waste over sales for steaks being sent back to the kitchen. I don't want this. This is a chef's level skill. So this is what's going on in my kitchen. But if you want to cook great food more consistently and want to cook in your own home, then you'll want to pay attention to the cooking techniques and have repeatable methods. These are the same methods I'm going to reveal in my webinar. It's discover the 3 secrets to making your cooking a winner every single time. Because understanding these methods will allow you to make sense out of any recipe, or not even use a recipe, because your increased understanding of how different cooking techniques work. Not what to cook, but how the techniques work. And then you'll be creating the things that you want. You want them to be, and you'll be able to create them again and again and again. Make sure you get a seat at my webinar.